Hello, everybody. This is positively the most exciting video I've ever had to do. I am such an adrenaline rush, and now I refuse to cool down. Why should I cool down? I refuse to cool down. My name is Nonqeba Jika, and I have bipolar disorder 1. I saw that picture at the theme park, Gold Reef City, South African theme park called Gold Reef City. A trip my child and I had to take in September, but we all know how life happened, but we finally did it. So when I saw that, I took that picture and then I thought to myself, but why? Yes, in that context, it makes sense because you have those cooling down stations after every section of the rides because of all the adrenaline going on the rides, you need to cool down. But my thing was, why? Why would you need to cool down? And I did not look at it in the context of the theme park, but rather in the context of my TikTok baby. Yes, everyone, I finally met her. Oh, she's so pretty. I still couldn't get over how pretty she was. But more than anything, I could not get over how different she was. Not different because I was actually seeing her in person for the first time, but because she was different, I could tell the difference over the phone over a while. But to actually see it was something else. It was something else. It was so humbling. It was so moving. I still can't get over it just talking about it. So I remember we met in January. She's literally my first follower on TikTok. We met in Jan, and a few days later, she sends me a 28-minute video where she tells me about her struggles. And at the time, remember her diagnosis was bipolar mood disorder 2, which is the opposite of who I am. I'm a one. We get high. I get high just thinking about how okay she's doing. That's what I feed on. I feed off of that. She, on the other hand, is a tour. Tours are downers. I can say this now because she's okay. But gosh, she was a downer through and through. Having to call her and having to lift myself up after having spoken to her was my life for the better part of last year. That is why in one of the videos I said I was excited because she was doing okay. But now the thing is, with the 28-minute video that she had sent me, she had made a request. She says to me, she says, I push people away. I don't know why I do it. Sometimes I won't even answer the phone. Please don't leave me. Please don't leave me. And then I go on to say, you are stuck with me. I'm not going anywhere. So in other words, even remember I'm a dealer, we need to deal and move. And then I was finding her to be a dweller. But because I had given my word, I told her I'm not going anywhere. I had to stick it out. Yes, I must admit. There were times when I really I couldn't, I can't say I ghosted her, but I would take a bit of a break. Probably because my own year was shit. Everybody, we know this. But every once in a while, we'd resume contact, and she would call it the breaking of the ice. You know how we say there's an icebreaker. So yeah, I actually get to see her in December. So let me go back a little bit, rewind. In September, she gets admitted again because remember she had bipolar mood disorder 2 and she had borderline personality disorder. Then when she comes back, after the hospitalization, she comes and she says she now has ADHD. I really must say I'm ashamed of this, but I took it very lightly. I thought now she's increasing the alphabet because I promise you guys, from the little knowledge that I had about ADHD, that would now be from back in the years when it used to be ADD. I actually found myself very vindicated because since I joined YouTube, now you have to listen to creators who give the same content as you do, know what they say, don't find yourself repeating what they are saying along those lines. So I was vindicated when a doctor talks about how since 1902 it was ADD and it was associated, like the way that I knew it, associated with children who would climb walls. Literally, when a child gets into a sofa and then they get into the leg of the sofa and then they're up the wall. Oh my goodness, those children. So we used to call them retinal babies. That's the only way I knew ADHD. So her on the other hand, or she on the other hand, this English, she she was lethargic. Like I'm saying, she was a downer. She was a doer. It took everything for her to do your everyday kind of things. Then we learn, or at least I get to learn, that as opposed, okay, this much I knew. I'm a winner. My dopamine levels are naturally higher than probably your average person. Whereas in her case, her dopamine levels are lower. So now, for the longest time, I could not understand what we were doing wrong because she has the most supportive husband. She has the best treatment when it comes to bipolar disorder. Our core are mood stabilizers. She had that. She had antipsychotic, the best one ever you can find. She had everything. In other words, we were doing everything right, only we were fighting the wrong battle. So when she came with a diagnosis, I first thought she was being a hypochondriac, finding all kinds of things, self diagnosing, only to find out no. Finally, I don't know the doctor that diagnosed her, but finally somebody cracked her code. When I usually talk about mood stabilizers, like in my case, I would never take an antidepressant because it's for people who are depressed and they must go up. I take tranquilizers over and above my stimulant, no, not stimulants, over and above my mood stabilizers. But the whole point would be to keep the graph like just keep it there, keep it there. Get up every once in a while, go down every once in a while, but just keep the graph there. So then I couldn't understand why when she was getting the mood stabilizers, they were supposed to pull her from the down where she was, bring her on par to the graph, but that was not happening. And the reason that was not happening is because we were not dealing with bipolar, we were dealing with ADHD. Now, like I'm saying, YouTube almost forces you to know what you are talking about. So there's a Dr. Tracy who talks about it, about the sections of the brain and how much dopamine, which part of the brain secretes at what time. So she would talk better about that. I, on the other hand, I'm just so humbled. I am just so humble and happy that she's okay. I am just so humble and happy that we finally know what we were busy dealing with. And I am so humble and happy that she is okay. Because then she visits me. Okay, it's unfortunate, but when we say everything happens for a reason. Remember, I work in Kimberley, which is now in the Northern Cape. My house is in the Northwest, and she is in Mpumalanga. But it so happens that, unfortunately for them, they have a family funeral in Northwest, so she had to come to that funeral. And as she comes, something happens. Unfortunately, I think I'll talk about it in another time, but I'll just make a little bit of reference to it. She happens to forget her bag, her suitcase that's got all her clothes and everything. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, the other thing is that I knew I was going to see her, but I had expected to see her Saturday after the funeral. And my daughter and I arrived the Thursday. Now, because I know my house has been closed all this time, we went to my mother's house. We slept there with the understanding that, I'm going to come on Friday, clean the house, get it ready for her and everything. And she calls me on Friday afternoon. She says, "Miss Nangabasle, I know this was not part of the plan, but can I lodge at your place on Friday?" I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh my word! But it's her, it's my baby. Of course, there's no saying no. Not that I don't have a no bone, because I share my no bone. It's very, very strong. I built it over the years. But because it was her, then I say yes. Now, unfortunately, all of that, I end up getting overwhelmed because now you must understand the house is stuffy. There are spider webs everywhere. I need to clean it up and everything. So I sleep around 12:45 at night. So by the time she walks in to tell me that she forgot her bag, I have to admit I was out of it. Out of it in the sense that it was way past my bedtime, quarter to midnight. I was exhausted. So she comes in and says, Sister, there's a problem. I'm like, what is it? I forgot my suitcase. And I promise you, all I could conjure up was, I'm so sorry to hear that. In that deep, half asleep, half awake state of mind. And so she goes back to her room, she sleeps. A few seconds, I'm like, what happens if she, because you must understand, one of her coping mechanisms, shall I call it? Or literally a month earlier, she had a bit of a fallout with her husband and she overdosed. So that's what she would do, you know. And I think to myself, dear Lord, what happens if this young lady overdoses in my house? What do I do? I have that thought. At the same time, I'm like, no man, but what I saw is very different from what I've been talking to over the phone over the months. So I'm like, gosh, God, this one I am putting in your hands. Me, now I need to sleep. So I'm very proud to say, everybody, that she did not do anything stupid. If anything, we woke up late. She missed the funeral, obviously, but she made her way to the mall. She got herself an outfit for the day. She went and helped out. You know, there are those people who go to the graveyard. I would be one of those. There are those who stay at home and get ready to serve people. I would never be one of the latter. So then ends up to be in that group. And then she happens to be so happy because that was the other thing, that you may have missed the funeral, but you cannot not go. Remember, your relatives are coming, your parents are coming, everybody's coming. So rather go there, explain to them what had happened, and be with your family. So really, she ends up going, and then it happens to be such a wonderful, such a win of a weekend, because then she keeps saying, even going to the mall, there were all these little hiccups, getting to the shop, getting the wrong size, having to go back. It's December, the shops are full. For whatever reason, she did not fit the dress inside of the fitting room. She actually went to the public toilets that are way down on the other side from where the shop was, had to come back in queue again to get the correct size. And she keeps saying, at that point in time, she says the phrase, the mantra, let me call it a mantra, that kept playing in her head was like, yeah, ne? Life will humble you. Life will humble you. But in all of that, remember, every weekend was eventful. When I say eventful, it was full of drama. And I keep on telling her that, if there ever would then have been a weekend that should have qualified as an eventful weekend, this would be the one. But can you see how well you handled yourself? I was just thinking about how well she handled herself. It just brings me back to, yes, I got onto TikTok because of my sister. And then, yes, I know at the back of everybody's mind there are numbers, but to me, it really never has been about the numbers. Getting onto YouTube was me being able to do longer videos, because some of the TikTok videos, I would cut them and have a part one and have a part two. Sometimes I find that it becomes a bit incoherent, but more than anything, she would then be the reason why I did this. Even if there's just one person whose life moved from that very first phone call. Please, if I sound like I'm blowing my own horn, please, I would say pardon me. At the same time, I equal parts say please then allow me to blow my horn, because really this is what I feed off of. When I remember the first phone call that I got from her husband, because she had driven the car into a tree or something along those lines, and she felt she could not articulate to the husband what was wrong. And then this guy, a very, very eloquent guy, Balebadi, the model C kind of guy. My wife says to call you. Yes, she then told him that there's this lady that I saw on TikTok. I think she'll explain better to you what I'm clearly failing at trying to explain to you. And that is where the conversation began to say, no, man, there's just something is not as it should be in her brain. in the chemistry of our brain. We used to call it a chemical imbalance, but the SABC2 interview made it sound so sexy, in the chemistry of the brain. So, from that young lady who could not even articulate to the husband what was wrong, to this young lady who survived a weekend that was supposed to make her feel worthless and useless for having forgotten her suitcase, and then just spiral all the way down, all she said was, "Life will humble you." And indeed, everybody, life will humble you. The only way is to do what? You don't dwell on how life humbles you, but you deal with it. If it deals you those cards, you play the cards that life has dealt you. And yeah, everybody, I really do believe that our mental health anonymous is working, because remember, as opposed to going to a psychologist where you get and sit and you wallow for the longest time over something, we, on the other hand, I want to believe, oh, it has always been my wish to have some kind of a support group where we can trace change, where you can look at her and say, but why would you not change in the fitting room in the shop? Why would you have to go and walk? Something like that I would never have been able to ask her a few months ago. But now we're at a point where she goes like, come to think of it, we are now having honest conversations. She used one of the reasons why she would relapse back in those other months would be she's not disciplined with the medication. She admits that. Even to this day, she still admits that then. But now I no longer cushion it, or I no longer handle her with, like an egg. I said to her, but then if you know that this is working for you, why don't you just stick to your schedule? I mean, do you now want to undo all the beautiful work that this doctor has done by cracking your code? Please take your medication. So yeah, we are not there yet. She's still not as religious as she should be with the medication, but we're getting there. But the point that I'm making is that with what we are trying to do, we are trying to say, let's hold each other accountable, let's hold each other's hands, let's let each other know that we are not alone, and more than anything, there are good stories to tell, and this is indeed the best story that I ever had the privilege to tell. My TikTok baby finally got the correct diagnosis and the correct medication, and she is living a fruitful life. So fruitful, she hosted Christmas lunch. Something I never do because I don't cook. Oh, but even that her Christmas lunch had its hiccups, but still she saw that on and she handled it well, which I will say again is the whole purpose of why I started doing what I am doing. And yes, I am indeed humbled. Thank you, everybody. My name is Nongabajik. Bye.